Do you find yourself constantly on autopilot? Like you're there, but you're not really there. You feel a little bit disassociated and not really grounded in the present moment. If that's true, then I think this video is going to be helpful because I'm going to talk about some strategies that I use with patients as a psychologist to be able to support disassociation. So there's a number of reasons why we might feel more disassociated in a day-to-day. For some people, it comes from past traumas where they realize that they feel a little bit helpless, maybe when mom or dad was yelling at them and there was nothing they could really do. So it was really hard to stay in the present moment. So their way of kind of coping was to kind of almost disappear into the background, feel numb and not feel anything. So for them, it's almost an adaptive strategies, at least back in the day, to be able to disassociate and not engage with life. For other people, they're dealing with constant overwhelming stress. So again, disassociation becomes a way to be able to navigate and survive through life by not feeling all the pain. And for others still, maybe they're just on autopilot because every day just feels quite similar. And as a result, it's hard for them to get back in contact with the magic of reality in the moment of now. And although it makes very good sense why some people disassociate, I do think there's also a lot of benefits to getting back in contact with reality, staying in the present moment, and feeling all the beauty of life, even if that sometimes does come with some of the pains, because it allows us for us to first of all see reality, so then we're able to better problem solve when we're in our sort of mindful space, be able to address the things that are in our lives that make it harder for us to, thrive, as well as be able to actually just appreciate the beauty that life offers. So now let's talk a little bit about some of the strategies that I found helpful for patients. Number one are grounding strategies that can be just very powerful to, in that moment when we're feeling very disassociated, to bring us back into the present moment. And oftentimes I find these strategies most helpful when they kind of evoke our five senses. So for example, one thing that you can pull from is just a sour candy. That sort of sourness kind of activates our systems and we're able to kind of come back a little bit more in tune with the present moment. Or the use of temperature, like for example, just splashing some cold water on your face, that can kind of sort of reorient us into the present moment. Or sometimes people talk about the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 strategy, where we, look at 5 things and label them. We, maybe hear 4 things or touch 4 things. You can kind of decide whatever sense you'd like to use. But that allows us to really kind of, again, reconnect with the present moment through what we're observing with our 5 senses. And if you're feeling a little bit disassociated even right now, one thing that you can do is to even identify a few things that you can see in this particular video, and that might be helpful for you to, again, reconnect a little bit with the now. Alongside some of these powerful short-term strategies, one way to cultivate more present moment awareness more generally in your life is to practice mindfulness. And mindfulness, by definition, is really just the intentional awareness of your internal and external surroundings in the present moment in a non-judgmental way. So if you're sitting and listening and you're engaging with the here and now, then you're mindful. Or if you notice that your mind is somewhere else, you're on autopilot, and you bring yourself back into the present moment, that sort of intentional recommitment into the present moment is also mindfulness. So I know that mindfulness sounds a little bit elusive, like what does that actually mean? But really you can incorporate mindfulness even in your daily life. Like if you're journaling or reading a book or listening to music and you're super engaged in that one activity, then that in and of itself is a type of mindful practice. So you might notice that as you're listening to music or reading that book that your mind is going to take you somewhere else, or you start thinking about doing something else, or you start multitasking. One thing that you can do is to just say, hey, actually, I'm noticing that my mind is somewhere else, and bring it back into the present moment. Doing that again and again, that allows you to cultivate a greater spirit of mindfulness and learn to be able to do something and engage in the present moment and what you're doing in a very mindful way. So as a result, there's not necessarily one right way to engage with mindfulness. For some people, it might be sitting in a mindful posture, noticing the breath, noticing the thoughts. For other people, it could be reincorporating certain activities, like for example, drinking a cup of tea and really just kind of noticing and enjoying the different flavors. It might be taking a hot bath, noticing the warm water kind of caressing your skin. As long as you're in the moment, noticing what's happening, that is mindfulness. And another way to engage in mindfulness that sounds a little bit silly, but it's really just to see things in a different light, things that you've seen hundreds, if not thousands of times before, but see it through a beginner's mind. Like for example, if I were to look at this pen, I've seen this pen hundreds of times before, but I've never really kind of observed it. Like an alien who's just come from outer space and has started to see this thing for the first time. Like, oh, like I didn't ever realize that this was a certain color or it had certain text on it or that it had certain kind of textures that allows you to sort of almost see things from a different light, from a beginner's mind, which then allows us to get out of autopilot to see things again, for in a new way, in a new time. And another way to get out of autopilot is actually by just creating a little bit more spontaneity in your life. Like, for example, taking a slightly different path to work, trying out a restaurant or a coffee that you normally wouldn't order from. Things like that allows you to just engage with life a little bit differently and creates a little bit of novel, unique experiences that might allow your brain to kind of reconnect with the present moment. And for some of you who struggle with trauma, and that's one of the reasons why the dissociation is happening as a sort of response to past stressors, then one thing that can be really helpful is to get support or resources for dealing with the trauma, because right now the disassociation is a protective factor to stop you from feeling very overwhelming feelings. And as a result, it might be helpful to look for professional support in order to address the trauma so that you can continue to move forward in your life. Anyway, these are just a few different strategies that can be helpful for disassociation. If there are strategies that work for you, maybe you can let us know in the comment section below. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.